They say the woods are peaceful at night, but anyone who has stepped into the thick darkness of trees after midnight knows how quickly that peace twists into something terrifying. And tonight, I want to take you deep into 3 encounters that left those who lived through them shaken for life. Because the truth is that the forest at midnight does not forgive curiosity, and it never forgets the ones who dared to enter. The first story comes from a group of 4 college friends who thought a weekend camping trip would be the perfect way to escape the stress of their exams. And at first, everything was normal as they roasted marshmallows by the fire and joked about ghost stories. But around midnight, when the fire had burned low and the wind stilled to an unnatural silence, they began to hear it. A low, distant whistle, almost like someone trying to mimic a tune but never quite finishing it. And one of them shouted into the darkness, "Hey, who's out there?" But the whistle only grew louder, circling around their camp, moving from tree to tree as if someone were pacing just beyond the shadows, and when they tried to laugh it off, one of the boys suddenly froze because he swore he heard the whistle repeat his name, stretched out and broken, and then another friend heard her own name whistled too, the sound coming from right behind the tent. So they grabbed their flashlights and beamed them into the woods, only to find nothing but fresh footprints pressed into the soil all around the camp. Footprints that weren't theirs, large, bare, and leading in endless circles. And that was the moment panic took over as they packed their things in silence and fled the forest, driving until sunrise before they dared to speak again. Each one swearing that the moment they stopped moving, they felt the whistle in their ears, as if something had followed them home. The second encounter is perhaps even more unsettling because it involves a lone hunter who had been in those woods his entire life and believed nothing could scare him until the night he lost his way after chasing a deer too deep into the forest. And by midnight, his flashlight battery had almost died when he stumbled upon something he swore had never existed before. A small weathered cabin with a single window glowing faintly, and relieved he thought he had found shelter. So he knocked, but no one answered, and when he opened the creaking door, the smell of dust and rot filled his lungs as he looked inside and saw a room lined with chairs. Every single one of them turned toward the doorway as if they had been waiting just for him. And though the cabin looked abandoned, a single lantern flickered on a table as though someone had left it for him, and feeling uneasy, he decided to back out. But when he turned to leave, the door was gone. The wall was solid wood as if no entrance had ever been there. And in that moment he felt eyes on him from every chair, though none of them moved, and he screamed, clawing at the walls until his flashlight fell and cracked, plunging him into total darkness. And the next morning, fellow hunters found him lying face down on the trail miles away, his hands shredded and bloody, mumbling over and over, "Don't sit in the chair, don't sit in the chair." And to this day he refuses to talk about what happened in the hours between midnight and dawn. But the last encounter is the one that still haunts me the most, because it began on an ordinary drive home for a woman who had just finished a late shift and around midnight as she passed a stretch of road lined by dense woods. She spotted what looked like a small child standing by the trees, barefoot and staring at her car, so she pulled over in a panic thinking a child had been lost or abandoned. And when she got out and called, the child turned and ran into the trees giggling, and against her better judgment she followed, calling out that she was there to help, but every time she thought she was close, the child's laughter echoed further ahead, luring her deeper and deeper until she realized she was far from the road and her car. And the laughter suddenly stopped, leaving only the sound of her own breathing, and that was when her car headlights cut through the branches behind her, and she froze, because standing right there in the beam was the same child, smiling. But its smile was impossibly wide, and its eyes were pitch black, hollow like 2 endless pits. And as it tilted its head, she finally found her legs and ran as fast as she could, never daring to look back until she was safely inside her car with the doors locked. And when she drove off, trembling, she swore the child was standing by the roadside again, watching her leave. And so I ask you, after hearing these stories, which encounter left you with the deepest chill? The whistling man who called his victims by name, the cabin that trapped a hunter with its impossible door, or the child in the trees whose smile was far too human to belong to anything living. Tell me in the comments which one you believe. And if you're brave enough to hear more tales that will keep you awake tonight, hit subscribe and join me again, if you dare.